My name's Iheoma.
Hi, I'm Isabella.
So I'm Ben.
I'm Meg.
So we're talking about like how the whole kind of COVID-19 situation is affecting young people in particular, and especially thinking about the things that aren't being talked about, or maybe things that young people feel aren't being represented well for your age group. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that to start off with.
I think the biggest thing that's really underrated is the situation with school. How different it is to be in an online video chat rather than being in a classroom. For example, for me, we do all the same hours that we would do in a school day, from Monday to Friday, and that's from 8:30 to 3 p.m. and having two breaks, obviously one in the morning and then lunchtime. But the fact of even simply not having the opportunity to chat with your classmates during lessons, because obviously you're on a video call, so you don't do that, and things like that, it makes it a lot harder to get through.
So it's almost like the schools try to completely replicate school, but actually it isn't completely replicating school because you're not having those like breaks, I guess, as well.
Exactly. And the 15-minute break that would usually be in the playground, it just goes by super quickly when you just take a break from the video, maybe check your phone, and next thing you know, your next lesson. And I don't think they fully realize that it's impossible to expect us to behave exactly the same in this situation.
So what do you think the effect of that is? Like what happens when it's like this rather than like a normal school day?
I think everyone participates a lot less. Everyone's a lot less interested in what's happening. We're just waiting to get to the end of the hour, being able to get away from the screen. And my eyes hurt loads, and I've had a lot of other students complaining about this. And that's also really bad. I feel like I never really get a break from school because I never go out with my friends. It's always, I should probably be doing my homework right now because I'm in the house, so I might as well. So there's a lot more guilt about when I'm not working.
That's really interesting because that's kind of like talked about a lot for adults in terms of like working from home and like looking after families and stuff like that. But I don't think that people are really talking about the pressure for school-aged people. I mean, what kind of things are your like friends and peers saying about it? What kind of effect is it having on them, do you think?
I think me in particular, I've felt it a lot because I've had issues with school in general the whole year. But it's definitely something that all of us, like, we're all tired constantly. There's people who might live in an apartment, might only be living with their mom, for example, and that's all they see every day, and they can't even like go to their garden or something because, well, now we can, but there was a period in which you wouldn't even be able to leave your house. So for those who live in an apartment, they would literally not be able to go outside at all. And when we were in school, they would always say during break time, go outside, like you need that 15 minutes of air, and now we don't get that at all. So I guess it's also kind of funny to think that we used to want to stay inside during our breaks, and now we can't go outside, and it makes you think a lot more about that.
The other thing that I was thinking about, and that's come up a few times, is people talking about like sleep and routines and all of those kind of things. I guess with you, because you've got like a school day that you actually have to show up to, it's slightly different. But I know that other young people I've been talking to have been finding that their sleep's been really affected, and the way that they're kind of scheduling their day has really changed. I don't know whether you've experienced anything like that or have thought about it. Or
it actually has affected my sleep. I will wake up late sometimes because my mom doesn't really, like, I'm pretty independent, so she doesn't really check up on me in the morning. And there's times where I've missed like my first lesson or so because a lot of the times I just have to move from my bed to my desk. So I think I get to the last minute, I wait till the last minute, and then I fall asleep again. Whereas when it comes to going to school physically, then you obviously have to get downstairs and then get into the car. There's no getting out of it. So there's that. It's also really testing on your self-control. and my being independent, because sometimes maybe there's been days where I really didn't feel like attending class, but I didn't want to ask my mom to not, because I felt like I didn't deserve to skip class. Like I just shouldn't skip class if it's at home. I would miss school days when I wasn't feeling well emotionally, when it was physical school, but with online school I don't feel like I should be able to miss it. So there was a bit of that, and I ended up like missing a few classes without telling my parents, for example.
That's really interesting how with going to like physical school you felt able to ask for those like mental health days or whatever, but with online stuff you don't. What do you think it is about like things being online that make them feel, I don't know, that's different? Like what is it that's going on there, do you think?
I mean, it's the fact that it seems like all it takes is opening up my laptop and then like joining the class, but it's a lot more than that. Other than the fact that even just getting up can be hard sometimes, but we're expected to participate a lot, and there's sometimes where they might call on you and you might be like basically falling asleep. There are some classes where I'm able to basically not like ignore it, like it can just be like a background noise, but most of them are actually like actively asking you to participate a lot, having things to be uploaded by the end of the lesson, things like that. I've heard of a lot of people in the US with their online schooling where they would just get loads of assignments in the morning and then just have to, complete them in their own independent way throughout the day. I guess there's pros and cons to both ideas, but it's definitely hard to stay on track, even if it's at home.
I feel like people have understood that they need a routine, but I feel like especially for school kids, because like I have a little brother as well, they've gone from a really rigid, strict, this is your school day, this is how your school days have, this is how your life has been for like a really, really long period of time. And then just to have like a massive, okay, you may still have like homeschool kind of work stuff, but you have no actual fixed structure. I think for a lot of them, it's just been like, oh my gosh, thank you, I can breathe through a bit. But then after a while, it's kind of been like, okay, well, it'd be nice to maybe do some things. So I definitely do think I've seen the switch from, thank you for giving me a break, it's like an extended summer holiday or a bit of a half term, to, okay, I'm a bit bored, what can I do now? Because like usually in the summer holiday, you could like see your mates, you could do something.
Yeah, well, I mean, someone made that point about like homeschooling, is that actually for people who homeschool in normal times, they're not at home the whole time, they're going to museums or like going out and like doing stuff. So yeah, it is different from a summer holiday. It's interesting what you said about schools though, because one of the other people that I've been talking to, their school has taken the approach that they literally have to be online for the whole school day and do like all their lessons. Okay, so why do you think it's too much?
Because I just give like, to be fair, I think a lot of the schooling system anyway is just like, please give these young people a break. Like the pressures are so much, the amount of work they get set is insane. I remember speaking to one young person and they told me that they were set 19 pieces of homework in one day. That's just not okay. Like for anybody's workload, like if that was an adult, if that was a child, nobody could do that at all. And also I feel like we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like please allow these young people some kind of headspace to breathe and to kind of take on what's going on around them. Like it's a change for everyone as much as it is a change for them.
Something that's cropped up in quite a lot of conversations is about work and jobs and money, especially some of thinking about like the fact that young people are going to be disproportionately affected by loss of jobs and the lack of opportunity, particularly things like the hospitality industry and like tourism and all that kind of stuff, and the freedom that you get from earning money. I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that whole kind of issue?
Scary. Like I know that before the furlough scheme was kind of announced, like I have loads of friends who work in hospitality, and it was scary. Like some of them were losing jobs, some of them were scared about losing jobs, and they were like, I only have X amount of savings up which will cover me for what, like maybe a couple of months of rent, but then that's that. And then if there are no jobs, because I mean there aren't going to be jobs because the restaurants will be closed and all that kind of stuff, like I don't know where like my income's going to come from. So that was a really scary time.
I had a catering job at 8 festivals this summer, so that's quite a lot of money lost, and I think that's part of the underlying like anxiety for me, because I know that I'm missing out on that much money that would help me at university. I do think young people are massively disproportionately affected, especially around here where there are so few jobs that aren't 0 hours contracts or that aren't in hospitality. Like tourism for us and summer jobs is the main source of income for young people. You'll earn all through the summer and you'll sort of eke it out until the tourists come back. And obviously with tourism effectively being null and void, it's going to be difficult for a lot of kids
to
have freedom.
There's not going to be any summer jobs basically, are there, in some ways?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of loss of freedom and independence as well that maybe people would get from doing that stuff. Because I mean, the implications of like younger people not earning money, I mean, obviously if you're like still living at home, it's that thing of not having the money for the bus to go and see your mates.
Yeah.
But when you're older, I guess it's the difference between being able to stay in your rented accommodation or potentially having to move back to the family home when you don't want to.
Yeah.
So it's a bit rubbish.
Yeah, it's a very strange dynamic to be in, especially like I feel people do kind of forget like sometimes young people are away from their family home for quite a long time. So some people may have not lived in their family home for since they were 18, and now there's this really like unfortunate situation, which means that even though before they were like really capable of sustaining themselves independently, now because of this, there is a strong chance that they do have to kind of like move back and like lose that independence in a sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I've heard of like landlords just being really uncharitable. So I'm quite fortunate in the position that my student loan is enough to pay my rent and food. But for people who have to work, for students who have to work and are being furloughed, you know, that's something that's come up a lot in Bristol, I think, particularly those who are living in the city where rent is astronomical.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's that's almost like two issues. So there's one issue to do with kind of like who's renting to you and their attitude to this whole situation. But then I guess the other issue is about like employment and jobs, because I don't know whether you saw this week there was that report about younger people being disproportionately affected in terms of like unemployment and stuff. I mean, is that something?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a reflection on stuff that happens all the time, isn't it? It's, you know, young people are always disproportionately affected in kind of mass redundancies because we have lower seniority. We're kind of more likely to work like non-essential jobs, so in retail and things like that. So yeah, I guess there's not really much in place to protect us, and there's this assumption often that we've got parents' carers to fall back on or student loans to fall back on, and that's not the case for a lot of people.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.